rings of power, and I say this time and time again, is the gift that no one wanted that keeps giving. It's been air quotes snubbed by the Golden Globes. Now, the Golden Globes is a very important award show. It's a big deal, and it's been quite interesting watching the winners and the losers in this. But the Rings of Power, which people are now defending, saying, well, it wasn't meant to win awards. It wasn't meant to be the Office water cooler conversation television series, have not only now defending this, but it's so funny because the show billed itself as a great adaptation of Tolkien's work, and it's really not. And I can go into that and I'll rant in another video, and I've talked about it enough, but it is not an adaptation of Tolkien's work. It's an original story that uses names and locations. It's like putting the Second Age into a blender and then putting it back together. It's not a good show. And I feel like this show is just going to keep limping because at this point it's become a meme. When you look at other fantasy television shows that are far superior, i.e. The House of the Dragon, no wonder this show isn't really winning awards. It's been nominated for a few, and it has won a very small number, but it does lose out to far superior properties a lot of the time. And that's fascinating to see, because they're desperately trying to cling on to this sinking ship and not succeeding. Instead of the rats leaving, they all move, and they're staying and clinging on for dear life. The problem with this show, and I think the fact that a lot of mainstream critics now are turning on it, the fact that people are being very honest now, and the fact that Amazon's checks keep bouncing, I'm joking by the way, but it's true, they're not getting good press. This show doesn't deserve good press. It never has done, and it never will. Ultimately, this show represents failure rather than anything positive, and I think that's also why it's kind of being air quotes snubbed, because they know if they put its name down, they're going to get ridiculed. When the costumes are mediocre, when the CGI is so mixed bag it's unbelievable, for every amazing piece of scenery there's some CGI wolves that look like something out of Xena Warrior Princess. Small, compact, generic set design, terrible writing, terrible characterization, no real plot or story, and now they're billing season 1 as just basically a very long pilot, basically screams of desperation. And I don't think things are going to turn around for the show. I don't think it's going to be that big. I think the viewership may remain kind of stable through season 2, but it's not going to be a critical darling. And I know they're doing this thing of more lore accurate, but to me that just reads of, this is going to be, we're going to emulate the Two Towers. I mean, I'm already recognizing plot points in season 1 from things like the Fellowship of the Ring, the early Game of Thrones stuff, some of the characterization. They also borrow elements of the Elizabeth movies, the Cate Blanchett movies, which I find really strange. I feel like the show is more like a Frankenstein's monster of different concepts with poorly written dialogue, which reminds me of, God knows, a CW show. The reason this show isn't getting much attention in awards is it's not very good. And a lot of critics are probably scared to say it because they know they'll get pushback. The Rings of Power does not represent success, it represents failure, it represents a need to destroy a culture of Western culture than actually embrace it. But what I find funny is that when the actors talk about it, like in the making of, or when the showrunners or people do interviews about it, they never talk about the show. They talk about representation, diversity, strong women. They never actually talk about anything related to the show other than the key trending Twitter talking points. And the amount of shills that are shipping Galadriel and Sauron is embarrassing at this point. Like, I've seen some really cringeworthy stuff on Twitter, and I'm like, these are being drawn by 14-year-olds. No. The irony here is that no amount of shilling, no amount of pay for, no amount of anything that's going to happen is really going to get this show much attention. It's going to be like Star Trek Discovery. It's just content, and that's the kind of end mill of these shows. They're content for a streaming service. They're a throwaway book haul on BookTube. They're a haul video that fills a gap because you don't really have anything else to talk about. That's all they are. It's shallow, devoid of originality, devoid of anything, and at most it's reductive. And sadly, this is the future for so many TV shows and so many things now, because they don't care about the source material. It's all about the message, and it's all about ticking boxes rather than creating. So tell me what you think in the comments below. Social media links are there, and all of my other stuff such as memberships and so on. But also I want to ask you a question, and I'm going to put this one out there. What is your favourite fantasy novel ever? Please leave a comment.